What Kalani Sitake has built with the BYU football program cannot be ignored, but there is one key element to ensuring its continued success that BYU needs to take care of.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch, executive producer of the KSL Sports Zone in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a 14-year credentialed media member at BYU. I am your resident expert and insider, your host here on this podcast. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Coming up on today's show, we are going to examine a critical element to continued success for the BYU football program, that being that Kalani Sitake has his guys around him and what BYU can do to ensure that happens. Then we're going to talk some BYU basketball with a guy who's got a whole lot more knowledge than I do, that being Tim Lacombe. We'll talk a little bit about what he expects from the BYU basketball program looking ahead to this upcoming season. Then we'll finish up today's show with part one of a two-part getting to know Tiger Bachmeier. We'll get to all that ahead on today's show, and let's dive right in and talk about why I believe that's something I talked about yesterday. For those of you who are everydayers right here on the podcast, I talked about the fact that I believe the BYU may need to back up the proverbial Brinks truck to make sure that Kalani Sitake is happy and comfortable in Provo, Utah, because as one person in the coaching industry told me earlier this week, based on all the buyouts that have already been paid, inevitably there's going to be others that come down the stretch run of the season. The moves that have already happened in college football and the premier jobs that are currently open, most notably Florida, LSU, Penn State, UCLA, etc., those are going to have a cascading effect on the entire coaching industry because obviously money's going to exchange hands. Guys will move up. Guys will get new jobs. Guys will move to new jobs as a result of maybe their coach or somebody that they work with moving to another job. Kalani Sitake deserves, as I mentioned, a whole lot of credit and a whole litany of just flowers tossed his way for what he's built BYU football into. But if he wants to maintain the success that BYU's having and has had the last little while as members of the Big 12 Conference, he needs to have the resources at his disposal to make sure that he can hire the best and brightest when it comes to his coaching staff. And that means retaining guys like Aaron Roderick, like Kelly Poppinga, and most notably, if at all possible, Jay Hill. Jay Hill was a guy that a number of you pointed out that you would like to see BYU back up that Brinks truck to make sure that he sticks around in Provo, Utah. I have been pretty adamant, and I'll reiterate it here, that I believe that Jay Hill is intent on becoming a head coach again at some point down the line. Is it as soon as this offseason? TBD. But if the upheaval that I'm hearing could be coming with this coaching carousel, there are going to be jobs that open that inevitably will look at the success that BYU has had, look at guys like Kalani Sitake and say, hey, maybe we can't pry him out of Provo, but why can't we pry Jay Hill out of Provo? Because he's got a track record of success, albeit at the FCS level with Weber State. You can look at that and say, hey, he's a big reason why BYU's been able to get off the deck in Big 12 play and really turn themselves into a force. Why don't we hire him to maintain our program? What that would do, let's say Jay Hill were to take a job this offseason, inevitably, there are going to be guys on BYU staff, assistant coaches, graduate assistants, analysts, you name it, that would likely get opportunities to take jobs with Jay Hill and leave with him to go where that goes. That would obviously leave Kalani Sitake trying to fill those roles. So I'm not saying that Jay Hill is going to leave, but if he does, BYU has to have the resources in their back pocket to allow Kalani Sitake to go out and hire coaches of equal caliber, if not better caliber, to replace those coaches he, in theory, could lose. And I'm not saying just Jay Hill could leave. There could be other options for other BYU position coaches who are inevitably looking to move up and become coordinators or head coaches themselves. This is an industry, and Kalani Sitake has been a broken record himself on this, that he wants guys who work for him to have opportunities to move up in the coaching profession. He is a guy who believes in upward mobility. He's not going to stop a guy who's worked for him at BYU from going somewhere else if it means bettering their career. That is why I believe the BYU, as much as they may have to pay Kalani Sitake some extra money, and maybe they say, go to Kalani and say, hey, we're willing to pay you more money. Maybe he in turn says, hey, I don't need more money than I have right now. give it to my assistant pool so I can go out and hire people. I look at this case in point as the situation involving BYU's offensive line. Daryl Funk was an okay offensive line coach, but he did not get the job done. And BYU's offensive line, it regressed under his direction as the position coach for an all-important position in the BYU football program. Well, what did Kalani Sitake do and finally given adequate resources to go out and hire coaches that he believed would be able to upgrade BYU? We hadn't hired a guy like TJ Woods, and all TJ Woods is reinvigorate that position group. And in fact, it's become a downright strength for the BYU football program. That has to be the way that BYU operates moving forward. And I've got full faith that the BYU administration understands this fact and will allocate via their own resources or outside resources from boosters and the like to make sure that Kalani Sitake has everything at his disposal to make sure that he continues to maintain the level of success that BYU has, if Jay Hill leaves or not. I would hope that Jay Hill sticks around for a long time, but the success that BYU's having, I'll say it again, is not going to keep the Wolves at bay. Guys at BYU on Kalani Sitake's coaching staff, they've enjoyed a good run of continuity here. And they, by and large, are very, very happy and very, very comfortable working at BYU because it's a very family-friendly organization. Speaking of BYU athletics, it works with a lot of guys in terms of their religious background, as many of you are well aware, but also Kalani Sitake's culture and the way he treats his guys. It's a good situation to be in. So while I believe that BYU could find itself losing some coaches, if not just maybe a coordinator or two this offseason, just because, as I mentioned, the success that BYU is having is going to have other decision makers, whether they're athletic directors, university presidents, etc., are going to look at Provo, Utah and say, hey, can we pick off some of that success ourselves? Can we bring in a coach or two from there and have them inject what BYU's done right into our football program? All of that is very much on the table here, but so long as BYU allocates the adequate resources and Kalani Sitake continues to hire high-level assistant coaches, because his track record is very, very strong, all things considered. The guys he has brought in as coordinators, as assistant coaches, by and large, have been hits, especially when he's had the resources, obviously Big 12 related, to go out and hire those type of coaches. I would trust that he'll get the job done, but at the same time, make sure that you make it tough on the current coaching staff to want to leave Provo as well, because if you can keep what you already have, it's a pretty nice thing to have in your back pocket. All right, coming up next, we'll flip gears and talk a little BYU basketball. I caught up with Tim Lacombe yesterday to talk a lot of BYU hoops, and this is going to be a part of a bigger series. We're going to let you hear the first part of our conversation talking about what BYU basketball looks like to him at the outset of this upcoming basketball season, what the expectation levels are for Kevin Young and company, and also how different college basketball looks today as compared to when he was on the bench with Dave Rose at BYU. We'll get to all that next right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. Now, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. They deliver confidence with every ride, with more IIHF top safety pick awards than everybody else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings that same intention to how they craft every model in their fleet of cars. The best part is you can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence in almost any season as well. Like our players who set every detail, because when you make every moment count, every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. It's all courtesy of Mazda. And as they like to say, move and be moved. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. If you have not done so already, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share this with your family and friends. Tell them it's daily BYU content, and tell them to be an everydayer right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, because the motto at the network is truly your team every day. All right, let's talk a little BYU hoops, shall we? Because BYU opens the season Monday in Las Vegas against Villanova, and this is a huge, I tried to say three different adjectives there in one word, but it's an absolutely huge season on deck for Kevin Young and company. Obviously led by the likes of AJ DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, Rob Wright III. There is a lot to look forward to for the BYU basketball program, and that's why I wanted to bring in an expert who can talk more intelligently about it than I even can. And that would be one, Tim Lacombe, formerly an assistant coach, associate head coach at BYU under Dave Rose. He was in the coaching realm for a long, long time, 2+ decades at least. And he knows more basketball than I will ever know. And I had an opportunity to talk with him. This will be a part of a bigger series we're going to play over the next few days because we went for a long time. But here's part one of my conversation with Tim Lacombe, talking about just kind of the overall outlook for BYU basketball this coming season. Tim, I want to start this conversation by asking you to think back on your time working with a guy by the name of Jimmer Fredette. And the reason I'm asking you about this is it feels like this season, the hype levels entering this campaign with Kevin Young in his second year really are only matched, it feels like, by Jimmer and what he did while you were coaching there in Provo. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, and honestly, to be, have the respect that this team has this year preseason wise, that's something, we never got to be that well thought of. So
Yeah.
Obviously a lot going on and a lot good going on in Provo. I think everybody's so excited about AJ both here and nationally because it's so unique. And, I'm excited to watch it all play out.
Now, you've been over to practice a handful of times to check things out. You have that access, obviously. Can you give us a sense of what you're observing from your perch? Because you've sat on sidelines and you've coached some high-level players, but what are you seeing from this BYU basketball team in particular?
Well, I think my exact quote, I was sitting with the Cottonwood High School coaching staff during practice and had a great visit. And, I think my comment was, I don't know that we ever had that many guys, that really could play for us in a gym, playing at that level that early in the season. Okay. And so I think that, that's a great compliment to them. The team really looks like they're definitely kind of gelling. I think there's a lot of cohesion. The kinks in terms of offense, defense, those things will ebb and flow during the year. I mean, that's just natural for a year. No team's going to go out there and play the perfect season, but I think where they are right now, both from a standpoint of talent and different guys that can play, so versatility, and then the level of instruction, coaching that they're getting, and the way they're receiving it. To me, that really stood out.
You talk about the coaching, and Kevin Young's got 5 assistant coaches. He's got multiple GAs. He's got analytics people. He has got like a small army of people working around him. What do you think that does for a program like this when they try and go and match these outsized expectations?
I think, in this day and age, I think it's probably what you have to do. They're really starting to kind of model NBA staffs. And I think that the NBA, particularly for the high end players, that's kind of what they're brought up wanting to do. Yeah. So anything you can do to cater to that, I think is brilliant. And I think it's a big reason why BYU is ahead of the curve probably. And we're able to kind of piece this whole thing together as with NIL as kind of a potentially potential window that could open. But I think, hiring Kevin straight out of the NBA with the relationships he has, he was up at the game this week against Phoenix and, was down on the court talking to everybody. You can tell he's really well liked and respected. And then these young players come in and they're like, man, I want to learn from him. He knows what it's like. And so I think that definitely can help win you some 50-50 battles in recruiting.
Now, you talk about the ebbs and flows and kind of the identity of this team. You obviously said you're not going to come out of the chute probably firing on all cylinders, but give me and I guess Cougar Nation a sense of what you think the identity of this team is going to be.
Well, I think it's what Kevin's really trying to put together is a really efficient team on both ends. And I think that's always the nature of when you're using analytics like they use them. I mean, that's definitely the end game. And how to get there is obviously some tweakings required. I'll go to last year. The lineups that played early and played a lot early were not the lineups that played late and finished games late in really meaningful games. So you definitely, you have your roadmap analytically and where you want to go. But the variables, I guess, are the players and how they fit together. People tend to forget, Jake, that it's, this isn't like Madden where you just turn on the TV, and it is for them. And I think that's where the weird crossover is, but they're still real personalities, each guy dealing with their own set of issues and, strengths and weaknesses. And as a coach, really, that's the essence of being a coach. It's not necessarily the X and O's, which Kevin is brilliant at, I must say, just watching his practice, and all his guys. But then, the step further, I think then you've got to get into relationships. And that's back to what we were talking about, probably why you got so many guys.
Do you wish in some ways that during your time at BYU, you had the resources they have at hand now?
Well, I mean, sure. But at the same time, we didn't want for much, at BYU. I think, the guy who's the AD now was over basketball for us, and that's Brian Santiago. And if you know Brian at all, his motto is find a way. And really, that's the way we tried to operate. We knew, particularly kind of the inner workings of recruiting, we were playing at a major disadvantage. But that just made us have to be way more sure of the guys we went out to see, that they were the right guys, and that they could fit our culture, and then B, they could help raise our level. So, it's really, they're doing the same thing right now in just a totally different climate. They're trying to find ways to make BYU stand out, and I must say they're doing a pretty good job.
How revolutionary has NIL been, and obviously BYU's role in all that?
I think it's been huge. That was an area. There was a lot of gray area in basketball recruiting, even today, I'm sure, because everybody tries to go right to the edge and find the loopholes. Coach Rose was one, man. He's just like, you guys want to play on the field they give us. And so, I think it was really, really great to have a guy like Brian who saw that, hey man, these guys, like, he got us chartering, he got us, getting out there early before games, and sending a little recon team out early, kind of starting to think outside the box from just, everybody jump on the bus at the same time, get the hell at the same time, go through the same madness over and over again. We tried to figure out a way to streamline those things.
What is the biggest difference now in college basketball versus what you experience as a coach? What do you think is the biggest difference right now?
Just the, I say this often, but just the whole process. I mean, before, you really were trying to deal with, their parents, the AAU coaches and the high school coaches. And really, I think the first call now probably goes to an agent. And, that's just how it's changed. The relationship's obviously still really important, but at the end of the day, I think to get into the door, the agent's got to know that you guys are in business and are willing to play. And so I think that would be it, is just kind of the change from more of a relationship-based model on recruiting to more of a transactional up front. And then kind of relationship gets figured out, just like the pros when guys come, then you start to piece together, and you do your best, obviously, in the recruiting process to make sure that pieces fit together both on and off the floor.
There you go. Part 1 with Tim Lacombe. Big thank you to him. We'll have part 2 coming up tomorrow. And it looks like we could maybe have like 3, 4, 5 parts. So stay tuned. We'll have plenty of content for you guys. A lot of thoughts on guys like AJ DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, Rob Wright III, on down the line. Tomorrow in particular, we got a kind of a focused look at AJ DeBonsa and Richie Saunders, because Tim knows a lot about these guys. He's watched them, as he mentioned, in practice. He's got a feel for them that I don't think many people do have. And he'll explain what he sees from both of those star players in particular on tomorrow's edition of Locked On Cougars. Coming up next, though, another conversation that I want you guys to hear part 1 of. That is getting to know you with Tiger Bachmeier. Now, his brother Bear is obviously the star, the BMOC on campus in Provo, Utah. But I'm telling you, he has absolutely the moxie, the know-how, and just the overall intelligence to be truthfully, the most interesting man in the world. You get to know a little bit more about Tiger Bachmeier next, right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Peloton. Now, Peloton is here for you guys to get you, obviously, to where you want to go when it comes to your physical needs. They have a brand new cross-training Tread Plus, which is powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. It is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you stay motivated, and reach your peak performance all along the way. I want you guys to check out the Peloton IQ system, which offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. Because let's be honest, all of us don't necessarily know exactly what we're doing when it comes to lifting weights. And the swivel screen is a game changer. You go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat and not having to crane your neck to figure out what is going on. So let yourself lift, run, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton and cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Another plug for you guys to join the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. Get the inside scoop on all things BYU football and obviously basketball coming up on the way. And we've having a lot of fun having conversations with our Insider Group members. The best part is it comes to your phone in the form of a text message. You can fire back with thoughts of your own, and I see them in real time. So as always, thank you for your support, being members of the Locked On Cougars Insider Group if you are already. But if you're not, join today. Link is in the show notes below and we'll get you squared away as a newfound member of the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. All right, now time to let you guys hear from Tiger Bachmeier. I had a great chat with him last week after practice, and we talked about a lot of different things. And I'm telling you, he has a case to be as was it Dos Equis? I don't remember what company it was. The most interesting man in the world. I'm telling you, Tiger Bachmeier, he's got a shout to be that, at least for the BYU football program, if not just be that in general. And we had a wide-ranging conversation, and here's part one of said conversation, talking a lot about his background and, frankly, what he's accomplished in life to this point, despite being a relatively young man.
You're a pretty smart kid.
I appreciate that.
You graduated from Stanford in 2.5 years. What about it? Like, how are you able to get through school at such a prestigious university so quickly?
Yeah. I guess there's a little bit of a caveat there because Stanford is a quarter system. We're a semester system here.
Correct.
And so it really was, there's 4 quarters in the year, but one of them is a summer quarter. And so it doesn't really count, like nobody takes classes then. And so you're really looking at like 3 quarters in the year. Yeah. And I did it in 2 2/3. So that 2.5 is like, it's a little bit of a commitment. But no, it was definitely a challenge. I think that last fall, before I had graduated was definitely tough, balancing school. I was doing classes, doing homework on Friday nights before the game. It was physics 43 homework. I'd be doing it in the hotel. I had one other friend on the team taking the class too. And so we would do the homework together on Friday nights. And then I can even remember we played NC State. We were out there on a Thursday. We rolled in at 8 p.m. And then after that, we came in and I took a midterm on the road in the hotel, and that was really, really tough. And so I don't know if I would want to put myself in that situation again, but it was one of those things where you don't realize what you're doing until you get out of it. Yeah. And so it was tough. It was tough, but it was fun, and I just love looking back at my old projects and coursework and seeing what I did while I was also doing football on the side, I guess.
Now, your younger brother just walked by and gave you bunny ears as he was walking.
Yeah,
by,
no, he was behind the camera trying to make me laugh. We'll see how my camera discipline was there.
Exactly. But you guys have a fun dynamic because we saw after the game against Utah, you guys were at a retirement home singing to the senior citizens there. Why? Like, what's the impetus for you guys to go out there and do what you do in the community?
Yeah. As far as that specifically, my uncle, he said that when he was first starting to get out and play, and my cousin. So if you've seen the videos or whatnot, the 2 other people are my cousin and his dad, my uncle. Yeah. And so they kind of got their feet off. My cousin's doing well, and now he's really trying to make it big in music. So that's kind of what he's doing full time right now. But I mean, he's retired, but it's like it's his full time retired gig, if you will. Yeah. But they said that they got started in elderly homes, and the catch was that they're so thrilled to see you. Don't get too many visitors outside of their family, and super thrilled to see you, and they'll don't care what you play. Easy crowd, and so cheer for anything. And so it was a definite yes for us. Like, we're gonna go and do that. We've done a few gigs before, open mic nights, a few weddings, and then other stuff, and so any type of experience that we get playing the guitar, while we're not like actively practicing, it's good to keep those skills sharp, if you will. But it's super fun. It's super fun. I think that there's something to be said about doing good and doing good while it's fun, and if you can make those two things match, then something's going right.
You've got a lot of interest outside of football, obviously, and you and I talked before this about you and I both speak Mandarin. You also you play the guitar. I hear you're a pilot as well.
Yeah.
So where does all this come from? Where do you have time for all these different things?
Yeah. My whole thing is that there's 24 hours in the day. You use 10 to sleep, and then that means you have like 98 hours throughout the week, and it's like you're doing some of that with football, and then other stuff you can figure out, and especially during the off season, that 98 hours isn't taken up by football so much. And so all of these things that I love to do are stuff that I kind of started when I was young, and I had that mindset of, if I start something, I can keep chipping in and putting in the bank for it. So I started doing my pilot license, taking the classes, flying up in planes when I was in middle. First time in middle school, but I didn't really get started until high school. And so I just kept flying every once in a while, keeping up with the classes, because ultimately, if I want that to be my lifestyle and something that I'm doing every day in the future, it doesn't make sense to all cram it into one time, where it's something I can chip into and do little by little. And same thing with guitar. There's a period where I had to put in more time, especially in the beginning, to be able to learn the chords, shapes, and everything. But now everything that I put in is just like little chips to the bag. And so it's a lot of things that I like to do that way. One example of that is I love to read, and so I've been reading Don Quixote, and that's a hefty book. It's just under 1,000 pages, but I've been reading like 10 to 15 pages a night for like the last 2 years, and so it's kind of
working your way through.
Been working my way through that, and so I just kind of view my life like that. It's like big things are gonna get done like later on in life if I keep chipping away at them.
So, in terms of like when you go flying, have you flown while you've been here in Provo at all? Get out? Okay.
No, it's been really awesome. I've been flying. I've flown once. Before fall camp. Or it actually might have been during fall camp. And so like there's a post about me on Instagram. So like if you roll through my Instagram post, there's like a video of me flying here. And so I tried to get it up during the bye week, and maybe this next bye week I'll get up. But it was actually thundering on the days that I was trying to go up and fly. So it kind of got canceled during the bye week. But I do have a place here, and we don't fly Sundays, which. It was kind of like, that's like if I were to pick a day where I have the most time to be able to fly, it would be a Sunday. But I'm planning to pick it up more after season. I think that's probably the best plan.
There is Tiger Bachmeier. Big thank you to him. Part 2 will be coming up tomorrow on the podcast, as the plan may change. We may adjust it and maybe play it on Thursday or Friday, on Friday's edition of the show. But as always, truthfully, thank you for all of your support. And the best part about this is I thank you guys for making this a part of your day whenever it happens. We like to say, make it your first listen of the day. Frankly, whenever you fit it in, I appreciate all of the support and getting to know people like Tiger Bachmeier. Well, the only way I'm able to do it is because I want you guys, via me as a conduit, to get to know them. So thank you, as always, for making Locked On Cougars a part of your day. Make sure you come back every single day and stay up to date on everything going on with the BYU Cougars, but also make sure you check out the Locked On Big 12 podcast hosted by our good friend Drake Toll. Does a great job covering the conference as a whole, and obviously has a lot of interest in BYU. It was with everything going on involving BYU's success. He's got an ultra deep dive, as always, it feels like all the time, about BYU sports and looking at them in a unique prism. So check out Locked On Big 12 wherever you get your podcast, just like this one. Also available on YouTube. And until tomorrow, everybody, thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen in. We'll catch you guys tomorrow, every day, right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.